The Salem Witch Trials by Catherine Inglis. The play of the Crucible is a dramatized version of the actual events of the Salem Witch Trials that took place in Salem, Massachusetts. This webinar will inform you about the history and events that took place in the witch trials, the repercussions of the trials, and how the trials related to the play The Crucible by Arthur Miller. First, here's what you need to know about life in the area at the time. The population of New England at the time could fit in today's Yankee Stadium. It mainly consisted of Puritans, people who have sailed to North America to worship with more purity and less peril than they could do in the country where they were. This was said by a clergyman at the center of the crisis. The Puritans wanted to build their civilization here in New England. In 1689, King William's War against the French took place in the American colonies. It ravaged nearby areas, sending refugees to Salem. The displaced people started using Salem's resources, which put a strain on the pre-existing community, which aggravated the rivalry between the rich and the poor of Salem. In 1689, Reverend Samuel Parris became the first ordained minister of Salem, but was disliked because of his rigidness and greed. The Puritan villagers believed that all this misfortune happened to them was the work of the devil. In 1641, when the colonies established a legal code for capital crime, the first crime was adultery, the second was witchcraft. If any man or woman be a witch, that is, has or consults with a familiar spirit, they shall be put to death, read the Massachusetts body of laws. After witchcraft came blasphemy, followed by murder, poisoning, and bestiality. Religion was at the base of everything at the time, as this is quite evident when looking at the list of capital crimes. The trials began during the spring of the year 1692 and ended in 1693 in Salem, Massachusetts, when a group of young girls said they were being possessed and accused other women of witchcraft. In January 1992, 9-year-old Betty Parris, the minister's daughter, and 11-year-old Abigail Williams, the minister's niece, complained of bites and pinches with so-called invisible agents. They began having fits, including violent contortions and uncontrollable outbursts of screaming. They interrupted sermons and fell into trances. Local doctor William Griggs diagnosed the girls with bewitchment, and soon after, other young girls began exhibiting similar symptoms. The doctor who examined the girls concluded that they were under the control of the evil hand, as he said, which was the speculation around town. Parris prayed ardently and sang psalms to try to cure his daughter and niece, but without any luck. The Puritans believed that the devil would do anything to destroy them. The girls then accused the Parris' slave, Tituba, of bewitching them, as well as Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne. Mass hysteria started to ensue in Salem. All three women were interrogated for several days. Good and Osborne claimed innocence, but Tituba admitted that the devil came to me and bid me serve him, and that she saw black dogs, red cats, yellow birds, and a short black man who wanted her to sign his book. All three women were put in jail. Tituba claimed other witches were acting alongside her in service of the devil. Like Tituba, other accused witches denounced other witches, which overwhelmed the local judicial system. On May 27, 1692, Governor William Phips ordered the establishment of a special court of oyer and terminer. This court was specifically to try witchcraft cases. The first case brought to the special court was Bridget Bishop, an older woman known for her gossipy habits and promiscuity. When asked if she committed witchcraft, Bishop responded, "I am as innocent as the child unborn." Her answer was not good enough for the court because she was found guilty, and on June 10th, became the first person hanged on what was called Gallows Hill. The courts would use people's ability or inability to recite basic religious passages such as the Lord's Prayer as evidence whether or not they are guilty of witchcraft. The paranoia was now settled into Salem, and when Martha Corey, a devout member of the church, was charged as a witch, this terrified the community because if she could be a witch, anyone could be a witch. The witch trials were fueled by residents' suspicions of and resentment towards their neighbors, as well as their fear of outsiders. 6 people were hanged in July, 5 in August, and 8 in September. 7 accused witches died in jail, and Giles Corey, Martha's husband, was pressed to death by stone after he refused to enter a plea arraignment. 19 people were hanged in Salem's Gallows Hill. 150 people were accused over several months. Respected Minister Cotton Mather wrote a letter asking the court not to allow testimony about dreams and visions to be used in court. The court largely ignored this request. Increase Mather, president of Harvard College, urged that the standard of evidence for witchcraft must be equal to those for any other crime, concluding that it would be better that 10 suspected witches may escape than 1 innocent person be condemned. Even though the public supported the trials, Governor Phipps dissolved the Court of Oyer and Terminer in October and mandated that its successors disregard spectral evidence. Trials continued until 1693, and in May, Phipps pardoned and released those in prison accused of witchcraft. Even though the court's annual guilty verdicts, the painful legacy of the trials would last for centuries. Governor Phipps condemned further arrest. He pardoned everyone who was in prison for witchcraft by May 1693, but it was too little, too late. The A&E Network said that in January 1697, the Massachusetts General Court declared a day of fasting for the tragedy of the Salem witch trials. The court later deemed the trials unlawful, and the Chief Justice Samuel Sewall publicly apologized for his role in the process. However, it was not until 1957, more than 250 years later, that Massachusetts formally apologized for the events of 1692. The trials played a role in allowing the accused to have representation in court, cross-examination of the accuser, and the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. The Crucible is directly connected to the Salem witch trials. The play starts off with the commotion that came from Betty and Abigail's episode and the mass hysteria that ensued in the town of Salem. Many of the characters, such as John, are falsely accused and are killed because of it. The girls also accuse Tituba for bewitching them. The characters such as Reverend Paris, Betty, and Abigail are the same as the people in the real trials. There are very many parallels between the Crucible and the Salem witch trials. The play is directly telling the story of the witch trials. Many of the accounts that are told in the play are the real accounts that happened in Salem. The Salem witch trials were extraordinarily harmful and cruel towards the people of Salem, but have brought on very crucial changes to the judicial system and inspired Arthur Miller to write the play, The Crucible.